All right, here we go. Let's do this. Listen to some songs. Listening sessions up. How's it going? Hope you're all having a good day. And yeah, for anybody who didn't catch the news, Kathy is doing okay. Last I heard from the procedure. So thanks for all your well wishes. We continue to wish her well and a speedy recovery. We've got a bunch of songs in the queue here. We're gonna give them a listen. I can give you my hot take on them. And yeah, if we got any of the mentors in here as well, we're going to hear from them as well, I'm sure. So without further ado, why don't we get this party started? Here we go. First up, Dana Halley. As always, you know, it's just my opinion. As much as you might appreciate my opinion on things, just keep that in mind. And let's give it a listen. Here we go. Sorry for the yard work. I guess there's some important yard work going on in there. Actually, I think that's a garbage truck. I was going to say if that's like a weed whacker, that's like the most powerful weed whacker I've ever heard in my life. First song has not been played, Quentin. We are playing the first song now. It's Dana Halley, and gonna pop this open here in a second. Here we go. Yeah, it's pretty intense out there.
I can't walk in your shoes. I haven't faced with your face, but I'm feeling your pain, and I'm searching for grace, 'cause I know these struggles break your soul. I will stand up strong with you, stand and use my voice. I will speak up loud and true. There is no other choice, no other choice. I can't undo what's been done, but I can fight by your side. With strength and courage, we will find a way. With strength and courage, change begins today. Yeah. I feel it changing. It begins right now.
Nice. Okay, so love the energy on this one. It's got a nice upbeat kind of tempo to it. I'm kind of curious what the reference is with this, because it's got a super 80s sound, and like it feels like it's just got, like, with some of those sound selections, it doesn't sound particularly modern to me. You can have a track that's super modern and everything like that, and have like strong 80s influence without it feeling like this is a track that was like kind of created in the 80s style. That's my thoughts on that. I feel like the vocal is a little bit out front, just in general in the mix. Also during the verses, it's super dry. I would probably add a touch of reverb to that. I would have it sit back a little bit more in the mix. And as far as the top line goes, I feel like the top line is a hair on the general side, meaning it needs a little bit more like depth to it. It feels like it's very general. Needs to have a little bit more of a kind of like story to it, perhaps, like not in like a country kind of sense, but a little more development with the song. Just as far as like the depth of the meaning and, use of cliches, that kind of stuff. Strain on the vocal in like the higher registers. Like towards the end, I was scanning through and I noticed like towards the end, it was that vocal was getting a little bit strained when it was coming into the higher parts. So Just in your future arrangements, it might be a good idea to make sure, and I always do this when I'm working with an artist, is making sure that like at their peak performance, it's at like a place that sounds like super confident and also like does push them a little bit, but also doesn't push them up into like that strainy place, because you don't want that. So maybe a little bit of finesse on that part of the performance might be helpful here as well. So I like the energy with it. I like the message with it. I just feel like it needs to be a little less kind of a general approach to the writing on it, and the production needs to sound a little bit more modern. Right now, it's a little too on like the '80s kind of dated side. And once again, it's just the references would really kind of help inform me as to like, where you're like totally hitting the target and where you're missing the mark a little bit. So but nice job on this, and thanks for submitting it, Dana. Next up, Stefan, you are up next. Let your true color be seen. And, that was a work tape. Oh, okay, interesting. Will be sung by female. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's my feedback for work tape. I would just make sure you find like a super modern reference for like your finished production. Next, Stefan, you're up next. Looking for ways to modernize the track written on ukulele, but trying very hard to edit it out. Okay, cool. Let's give it a listen. Here we go.
I see it in the light, and I feel it in the dark. I know the fire of life is burning in your heart. Feel it rising higher. We are all the colors of the rainbow, and every shade in between. We are all the colors of the rainbow, so let your true color be seen. I see it in your eyes, and I see it in your face. For all the different shades, if you shy away, speak out loud. In between, we are all the colors of the rainbow, so let your true color be seen. Hey, we are all the colors of the rainbow, and every shade in between. We are all the colors of the rainbow, so let your true color be seen. So let your true color be seen. So let your true color be seen.
Nice. I think that's a little quirky. I think it sounded like the little frog kind of percussion thing. I love that. You could put like a vibra slap in here. It'd be kind of neat. It feels like almost like a kid's song to me, just with like the energy of it. And as we talked about, like you don't see a lot of the time that they're looking specifically for kind of songs that are oriented towards kids in briefs so much. It's definitely got a playful kind of bouncy energy to it. I feel that yes, the uke does kind of make this feel like it sits in the place, a little bit of a dated sound a bit, just in terms of, just what's being used right now. I mean, I'd say like 10 or 15 years ago, this would have been like, kind of in the ballpark of a lot of the like kind of fun, happy ukulele kind of songs. But really, they aren't looking for a ton of stuff like this right now. So I'd say just in terms of your production direction, you're not going down like the most marketable path with something like this. Yuka's definitely it'll come back around. You got to remember that like eventually all this stuff is going to come back around. Uke's going to come back around. Eventually Uke will be cool again, but it's going to have to take some time out of the spotlight before it's not kind of looked at with rolled eyes a little bit, just because it was it was done so much for a while. And then I think when it does come back, it's going to be some type of different iteration of it. There'll probably be some, when things come back, it's not going to be exactly this style of music. So even if you're kind of producing for the future in a way, you got to remember that there's already a ton of music out there that's like this already. That's super, super, super high quality. So that's just my thoughts for you, production wise. I do like some of the quirky little touches. I wonder what it would be like if you just took the uke out and forced yourself to put something else in there, something weird. You might come up with something interesting. Electric guitar would probably not be bad. Just something I feel and also I just kind of felt like the song was wanting to be a little more energetic, but the tempo of it was kind of holding it back a little bit. It's just a hair slow, I feel like, tempo wise. I feel like if you picked it up a couple BPMs, 2 to 5 BPMs, you could probably get a little more energy with it and a little more it would feel a little more vibrant. And if the song's about raw colors of the rainbow, right? Let your true color be seen. It's you expect something to be vibrant and fun and kind of energetic. And this, while I think that the instruments are certainly kind of perky and stuff, it feels like it's a little slower. And, I think you could get a little more complex with your rhythmic stuff that happens in times. It feels a little simplistic too. But I think as far as the song itself is a beautiful message. And I think it's just a matter of finding a unique way of stating that now that is different from what you probably would have done 10 or 15 years ago. Back when all the uke stuff was in the rage. That's my thoughts, production wise. Is you gotta find a way to make this more relevant to what's happening right now. If you want to have more opportunities to pitch it for stuff. That's my thoughts. You could definitely make a more adult kind of fun sounding version of this song too. Like a heavier version of it, that's just it sounds a little less like a sing along. That's just a thought too. There's different directions you could take with this. I think, overall, the quality of some of the instruments that were recorded were pretty good. It feels like it was in time. It feels like it was a cool arrangement, but just an arrangement that feels like it arrived about 10 or 15 years a little too late in terms of its heyday, when it would be most marketable. So that's my thoughts on it, man. Nice work though. Quentin, you're up next. Here we go. Let's check this out. Unfinished production, no vocals yet. Practicing mixing, looking for production tips. Want to add vocals at some point. Awesome. Let's do it. Let's do this. Here we go. This is cool. That's a jam. So I really dig this a lot. I think, you know, as far as putting vocals on it, you're gonna need to put a pocket in there for the vocals to sit. Yeah, I think you got to find a way to back off of those pads and bass, and find places for a vocal to sit. But I think you've got a really cool, unique sounding instrumental, and I loved the dynamics on that. It had like a little build, and then it dropped into something that was a little crazy. I loved it. It was cool. I think you could have like an even more crazy part of it. I guess that's my only critique in terms of like the dynamics of this, is I feel like it's got that cool build, then it drops into something a little wild. It'd be really cool if there was like something that was like super massive, like super heavy, that it could then go up into. Because everything else kind of feels like it's at the same level dynamically. But I feel like most of the work you have to do here is with your arrangement and your just the way that you take stuff out, like addition by subtraction for when you put vocals in. Just be me speculating like what that might look like, but you'll probably have to shift some stuff around to make it feel like it fits in like a format that people are used to hearing in terms of like, you know, just hit music, hit records, stuff like that. But I think it's a super cool track, and you've got a really great start to something here. So I think the sound quality was really high, and I'm not a huge fan of stuff that kind of swirls from side to side constantly. So I think that was the other thing I was going to say, was that maybe only do that for like a little while, and then kind of bring it kind of, because the mood, I don't think you need to kind of have it go like kind of bouncing side to side the entire time. But you know, that's another thing you can do dynamically, is decide when you want to do that and when you want it to kind of stay more center channel. But nice job. I think this is cool, man. Yeah. Find somebody dope to top line on it. Nice job, man. Jenny, you're up next. This is a work tape scratch vocal, production ideas, dynamics. Okay, let's check it out. What's up, Nick? I see you there. All right, cool. Let's give this a listen. Hang on a sec. Here we go.
Stick man, stick woman, come together, rub, rub. Stick man, stick woman, come together, rub, rub. Stick man, stick woman, rub two sticks together, fire, fire. Every child know what it means, draw stick figure, simplest thing, yeah. Every child got father and mother knows. They rub two sticks together, got fire. They got fire. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Rock, rock, fire, yeah, yeah.
Cool. You got some nice melodic ideas here. I like those little ooh, ooh, ooh things that you got there. I also like it's a unique arrangement, just the different parts, the way they're kind of interacting with each other. I actually really like how some instruments, they're each taking their spot in the mix, you know? So the things that I would put attention to as you're going forward with this is really work on your timing on your instrumental stuff. The timing on the instrumental track on this was kind of all over the place, and it kind of makes you feel a little like you're stuck, and it kind of stilts around a little bit. And then the other thing, I feel like, just the fullness of the track, there's a lot of stuff going on in the frequencies of the vocals that make it where like the vocal feel like it's fighting with the instruments for attention. So what I would do is I would find like, what's kind of your verse energy with this? And how can you bring down the number of instruments so that it's not getting in the way of the vocal so much, but still feels like a full track. And then the only other thing, I'm not quite sure what Stickman means. I'm not sure what that's about. And part of the thing is like, I'm not sure how that would relate to kind of, sync. I'm not sure how that would, I'm trying to think of like it sounds like it's almost like, kids drawing stick figures and stuff like that. And I'm just not sure what scene or ad this is going to be the best option for, like, as far as like a theme and as far as like the lyrics of it. So there's probably a way to put across the same message in a way that's a little less cryptic for me, or a little less cryptic for the listener. It just feels I'm not sure what's trying to be said here with the whole Stickman thing. It feels like it could be like a political statement, or it could be something that talks about like, kids' drawings or something like that. But it's a game app. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it means, but yeah. I like the playful aspect of the production on this, and I think it's got a fun kind of vibe to it. I think you've got to take a listen to your references and figure out how to get your stuff. So I think more than anything, it's like the rhythmic stuff has got to be a lot better locked in to sound professional. And then it's just a matter of getting your vocals to sit right in the mix. And part of the dynamics, when you're asking about dynamics, it's like making sure that you have enough room in the track for the vocal to sit without it being distracted by other instruments. So that's my thoughts on it. Thanks for submitting it. All right, Colleen, here we go. This is the moment of truth, eh? With the hey, it opened. Here we go. Yeah, I told you, Colleen, that I tried this earlier in the week when I saw you resubmitted, and it works. So whatever you did there, it looks good, and you got your contact information. This is great. All right, let's give this a listen. This is a much anticipated track to listen to because we've tried listening to it like 2 or 3 times, I think. Oh, I say A all the time. Last relationship I was in was with a Canadian, so and I love Canadians, so it's just what it is.
Tried to explain I'm just the same as you. Tried to explain I'm not out to steal your truth. Tried to explain if you cut my skin underneath, you'll see the veins red and blue. Tried to explain, whoa, I'm not a criminal. I tried to explain. I came on my parents' back. Tried to explain. I'm not here to wage an attack. Tried to explain. My only crime is I'm a dreamer. Trying to explain, whoa, I'm like a criminal, criminal, criminal.
That's really cool. I was thinking like of that I'm a criminal. I was like on the borderline, borderline. It's a little. It totally reminded me of that. This track is so 80s inspired. It's great. I think if somebody's looking for like almost like a Bon Jovi / acoustic jam that's like really well produced and sounds super tight, I think this is going to be what they're looking for. Now, the number of times that I see in briefs that they're looking for something like that, I'm not sure I've ever seen that. But I feel like for what this is doing, it's like doing it like really, really, really well. And I love the song. Like I really do love this. And I think like the fact that like this song puts a smile on my face makes me think that somebody else out there might think the same thing. So. You know, I don't want to discourage you in any way with because I think you really knocked it out of the park on the production of this, the way it was written. I just feel that as far as like this style of music, it's not a particular style of music that people are really seeking out right now. But you know, is there going to be potentially an opportunity for a song like this? Sure. You know, it really just depends on what they're looking for. Unfortunately, most of the time what they're looking for is stuff that's like super, you know, either alts of like super popular stuff that's happening like right now, or, you know, it's alts from like another era maybe. But I feel the problem with something like this is that, again, it sounds super inspired by the 80s, but it almost has like that 90s acoustic rock kind of vibe blended in with it as well. So it's a little bit of a fusion, and it doesn't really sound like it was recorded in the 80s. So you're going to have a hard time passing as like an 80s alt song as well. But I think it's just like, it just sounds like if I went to a bar and I saw like this really dope band playing a rock song, it's like, I feel like this is what it would sound like, you know? It's like, it's just a really tight performance. And I think the songwriting is good. It's super catchy. But that's my feeling in this, is that the production decisions in terms of like just the style of the music and everything like that, the way the mask that the song is wearing is not a mask that like a lot of people are like relating to right now. I think it's like, just because it's like, it's just not the most, because in a way, like the way the genre that you choose to produce a song in, it's like putting on a mask, you know? It's the same song, but it's like, it's a different vibe of it. So this vibe of this written song, I think you could definitely do like a heavier version of this that's like fun indie rock kind of vibe with this, and it would do really well, you know, potentially if it was recorded right. But I would really listen to, if you really wanted to be serious about recording this in a style where you're going to have a little more traction, you're probably going to get a lot more yeses with this, is just really study up on your indie rock, your modern indie rock, and see what can be done to kind of pair some stuff out lyrically. I don't know if it needs to, or just find a different like approach to producing this song. And I think you could end up with something that's super successful, because I think the song is good. And I think that the way you recorded it was great. It's your direction with the production. Just a little, it feels like it's on the dated side in like in an interesting kind of way. It's like I said, it's almost like Bon Jovi meets like 90s acoustic rock or something like that. So I dig it. I think you did a really nice job. I'm glad to finally got the chance to listen to this, and you know, hopefully can hear more from you really soon. Nice job. Katrina, you're next. All right, let's get this over to the screen. Here we go.
Come on, you can do this. Come on now, get yourself going. We'll bump up front of the aisle. We can make it better when we all get together. Take it one step at a time, just for today. stay. Take line by line. Stop, we'll be further away. Come on, you can do this. Come on now, get yourself going. Put one foot in front of the other. We can make it better when we look it together. The thoughts of yesterday, dreams we've outgrown, deep doubts where they lay. Make new thoughts of your own. Come on, we can do this. Come on now, get yourself going. Put one foot in front of the other. We can make it better when we look it together. We can go, turn around. We can rise off the ground. Come on, we can do this. Come on now, get.
Well, that was like a key change or something like that. Interesting. I feel that, as a production, I hear what you're going for. I think you need like heavier guitars on this. I feel like you need like bigger drums. If this is a swaggery kind of thing, it needs a little bit of that kind of swagger to it. It feels like it's missing a little bit of the swing to it that it needs, which kind of helps with like the attitude of the track. And then it feels like it needs a heavier guitar sound and more impactful drums for me. And then vocally, I think, the whole like hard panning the vocals left and right, it kind of felt like mix-wise to me that they were sitting outside of the song. So you got to be kind of careful with that a little bit. You got to, when you're mixing, it's like you want everything to kind of feel like it's in the same space. So it felt like to me in that particular moment that the vocals were almost kind of sitting on top of the mix and super to the outside of the track. So I would probably either move those a little further in and kind of tuck them back a little bit, or find just a different approach there. I think vocally, you probably want a slightly more aggressive tone with just the tone of it. I'd probably play around with like distortion on the vocals. And then I think, like, I'm not sure if you asked for feedback on this, but I will say that if this is your first sync track, awesome. This is like, congratulations on like getting, throwing your hat in the ring with this. As far as making something that's a little more, I think, like friendly for ads, I feel like having a little less wordiness to your top line will probably help create more space for the track to have swagger and kind of punch. When your lyric is literally covering, it's almost like all the real estate of the track. What ends up happening, it feels a little like vocal overload, and it gets a little fatiguing to the listener when that's done. So I would probably go back and work on getting this track sounding like a little more like the lyrical content of it. It's like a little more swaggery, a little more impactful, a little more powerful, and then reapproach the vocals from there. See where you can maybe be a little more economical with the vocals in terms of the lyrical stuff. And I'd also say, like, you got to find a little bit more of a less of a 2D kind of approach, kind of a general approach to the lyric writing. We can do this is fine, but if everything is kind of general at that level in terms of like a pretty general concept lyrically, it starts to, like, the thing is with cliches, if you use one, it's fine. But if your song has too many of them or lines that you feel like you've kind of heard it before, it really lessens the emotional impact of things. So I feel like you got to find a little more unique way of saying the same things you're saying. So I think as you go back and you kind of pair, maybe you're a little more economical with the top line, you can find some, it might be valuable to do a rewrite of the lyrics there as well, to just get, I feel like to get this to the place where I think you want it to go, it's going to require a little work on the track itself as well as the top line. But you certainly can do it. So, and I think, like, if this is your first track, I'm not sure your first sync track producing, you know, congratulations. Like you've already thrown your hat into the ring and you're going with it. Just take my feedback and try to learn from it a little bit. And, you know, just keep getting this track. I'd be curious, always curious, like what people's references are for these kinds of things. Cause, my inclination was, I thought it was like kind of like a swaggery kind of track, and it didn't quite feel that way. But yeah, congrats and thanks for submitting it. Appreciate it. Hillary Burt, you're up next. This is unreleased Final Master. Cool. Mentor Mania. Want to know which bits work for sync and which don't. Okay. Want to know whether it's worth redoing. Okay. Let's give it a listen.
When I look at you, I see so many things. A brightly colored bird about to jump and spread its wings. When I talk to you, I know that you're with me. I know what we can do to make us both feel free. You're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect. Smile as we travel far and wide. The way you make me happy.
I think the instrumental track on this is pretty dope. I think you could, if you had like the constraints of the Mentor Mania thing lifted, you'd be in pretty cool shape there. I think thematically, it's not really hitting the mark for me with the lyrics. Tyler's saying like, very mysterious vibes, and I agree. And if I thought about like You're Perfect as a song, I would think of something that's less kind of moody and vibey, and something that's more like kind of like almost like Everything Is Awesome, kind of like everything's kind of neatly on point, and like it's like the music seems like it would sound different than this. So I wonder if like, you know, reapproaching the top line on this would be a smart idea. You know, think of something that's a little moodier and fits the temperature of this track. I feel is what I would do. I think you, as far as like your instincts in the verses, again, it's you know, I say this a lot, but it's something that just happens a lot. Is just the wordiness of things. Just try to be a little more economical with what you're doing there, and I would say like this might be worth, if you're gonna redo the song in any kind of way, you should just completely rewrite the top line to a theme that's like feels a little more on point for the atmosphere you're creating. That's my thoughts. And my favorite part on the vocal, there's this thing that came on in the sides in the chorus. I thought that was really cool. That was a cool sound. You could probably keep that, but you could, because I feel like that still is that doesn't have any lyrical content to it, and it adds to the atmosphere you've already created. So that could fit into whatever you end up changing it to. And obviously, if you have none of the constraints of the Mentor Mania challenge on this, then you can continue to build this up. I feel like there's definitely more room to build a little bit subtly in as far as like the instrumental. But I think overall, like the quality of the instrumental track sounds pretty good. I think your mix sounds pretty good, and I just feel that the vocal is not quite. It's just not quite thematically matching the mood of the track. So I would look to maybe go a different direction in terms of the just the vocal content the lyrical content on it. But nice job. Thanks for submitting this. And yeah, so many cool songs that were submitted for that challenge. Group 11 co-write. Sweet. This is acoustic work tape. General songwriting critique. Ideas on arrangement and form. Okay. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, that was cool, right? I was impressed too. Let's give this a listen. Here we go.
Hang on, hang on, hang on. So you've got the red light. Something doesn't feel right. So you're swimming upstream, waking from that bad dream. Hang on, just another stop sign. Trust that we'll be just fine. Why are we just sitting here? Gotta get things into gear, yeah. Keeping in the right lane, tired of the same. Let's get together and stay together. Not just today, but forever. Let's get together and stay together. Not just today, but forever. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Let's get together and stay together.
I'm always a sucker for like 3-part harmony kind of stuff. It's what I grew up around. So, I mean, I really loved and appreciated that. And it felt like, just a group of people singing a song they wanted to sing, which was fun. I think I like the hooks on this too. I think it's good. My thoughts are, it feels like lyrically and thematically, it's trying to check off like a few different boxes of like kind of keyword things. It's like, oh, hang on, together, and then in the moment. Like any one of those things, you could write an entire song around. It's like, but I feel like when you blend them all together, what I end up with is the song doesn't have the kind of identity that it just doesn't have like a strong identity to me. It feels like it's trying to convey a bunch of different things, is my thoughts, like thematically on this. So I would maybe go back and rewrite, thinking of like, well, what is my song title? If my song title is Hang On, maybe make the song about like, hang in there, it'll get better. Although Hang On kind of has this kind of connotation that would be like almost like a darker kind of track, kind of like something that's like, might be better to write this about being together because it sounds happy, or about being in the moment, I think that Hang On at the end of the lines could be anything. Hey. Hey. Could literally be anything. So I don't think you're tied to Hang On as like as the way the song is titled, just because you wrote that there. So that's something that I would chew on. I'd think about that. Like maybe be a little more concise about what it is you're trying to say here. And then once you've done that, I think it's going to be easier for you to once again, find that beneath like the 2D level, like find that third dimension with it, find a unique way of saying the things that you're saying in the verses. So that when you hit them with something that's a little more general in the chorus, it feels like, oh, okay, this is like it kind of makes sense in a way. It's like something that's like a little more creative, a little more, unique, less cliche in the verses, and then lead them into something that feels a little more familiar, although you can always tweak and find some kind of cool way to phrase something like the word together in with a couple other words that might be like, ooh, I hadn't really thought of that one before. So we're always looking for those kinds of things, especially if you're in the ad, if you're trying to gun for ads, you want to think about like, well, what could the ad campaign literally be called? So yeah, that's what I would think. I think that this is, really well written as far as the melodies go. And I think the energy, the dynamics are cool. You could write this on like the acoustic guitar, but you could do like an indie pop version of this very easily, or it just depends on the indie rock version of it. Depends on like what you're going for. But I think when you do the production on it, you got to make sure that you're going to have to you're going to have to put a different mask on this because I don't feel that like an acoustic, like kind of, it's not going to be the most modern sounding version of a track like this probably. Especially if you're gunning for ads. I don't really see a lot of them looking for this type of acoustic song. But I think you could very easily take these melodies and this song idea and put it in a different genre, and I think it would sound cool. So I think that's my thoughts on it. I would do a little more work on the top line, get it a little more concise, and then just pick a super marketable direction in terms of the genre that you're going for. It's nice though. Alexis Hightower, you're up next. Wow, we're just cruising through things as usual. Killing it. All right, next up. This is Alexis. Let's give this a listen. Here we go. All right.
When this time I got my way, and when this time blue skies are here to stay, what if the falling leaves and the gentle breeze are simply trying to say, yeah, that maybe this time I'm landing on my feet. And what if this time I've launched my winning streak? What if the wind that blows and the bell that tolls are simply trying to say that good luck is here to stay? Good luck is here to stay. And what if this time, wait, and good luck is here to stay. Good luck is here to stay.
Okay, cool. Unmixed production draft. So I want to take into account that this track doesn't sound like it's completely done with the production. I feel that your arrangement is pretty good, pretty sparse. I do like that. I feel that with the vocal, if this is a scratch vocal, what I would say, by the way, I love your vocal tone. Your vocal tone is really great. A couple things, like if I was coaching this vocal performance, I would say it needs to be a little less even in the verses. It feels like it kind of sticks a little to a formula with the verses. I'd love to hear a little bit more variety and kind of dancing around the line a little bit with some of your verse lines. and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but just the way you were singing is a little bit like kind of even in the way. I would find some ways to kind of shorten some lines and then get back into it. And then the other thing I was saying, a hair over enunciated in places. It feels like softening the end consonants. I think would help a lot with this. I know this is just a scratch vocal, but if I was going in and working with you, those are the two things that I would kind of that I would work on. As far as the arrangement, it's a simple arrangement, so you'd probably want to come up with some type of some kind of thing that comes in later, like maybe some type of simple string arrangement could be cool. Dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Like just some type of thing that's just kind of reinforcing some of the melodic concepts of the track itself. And perhaps you can give a little more edge. I think there was like some type of synthy kind of thing. Maybe you could give it a little more edge. There's some eighth note strings, but maybe they're buried. Maybe they are a little bit, or maybe it's just like it sounded like to me it could use something with a little more like melodic interest to kind of counter your vocal over the top. But I think this is love the tone of your vocal. I think the song is like a pretty well written song in my opinion. And it's just a matter of in moments too, you're gonna have to figure out like some way to make it a little more dynamic vocally in terms of just whether it's a harmony or some type of double or something like that. I feel like that'll be helpful too, is like giving the song some vocal dynamics and finding a creative way to go about doing that. So that's my thoughts. Beautiful job on the vocal. I think you got a great sounding vocal for a scratch here for sure. Drew, you're up next. Drew, production songwriting feedback, please. All right. Happy to provide that. Here we go. Let's check this out. So weird. It's like some of the SoundClouds play automatically and some of them don't. I don't know what's up with that. It's interesting.
Wheels are turning, treads are bare, candles burning as I seek it, 'cause see this through. I'm gonna see this through. 'Cause I know what I need to do. Know what I need to do. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. That's really dope. If this is like kind of your rough mix, unfinished production, you're in really good shape. This is really cool. I think for this, there were a couple moments in that first section that I wasn't like completely wowed by, and then it dropped into the chorus and I felt like it was really like, that's kind of when it hit its stride. So I think my feedback to you would be like, do what you can to make the very first part of it as special as you can, because there's some really awesome stuff, little counter lines and things that you're doing later on. It's just gorgeous. But if people don't get there, then it's kind of, it'd be a shame. So that's what I would suggest, is just do what you can to make the first minute of this song like as special as it can be. This is really great. Like, I think this is awesome. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, you could very easily see somebody using this song because the lyrics, by the way, the lyrics, it looks like there was the wrong lyrics in there, but the lyrics weren't so specific that it's like it has to be used for just this one specific purpose. And the lyrics aren't so in your face. The vocals aren't so in your face. It's more about an emotion and a vibe. And I think that you're just really crushing it there. And then the way your vocal is sitting in the song, it's not super harsh. It's not coming up out of the mix in like a crazy way. So your vocal could totally be used over like underneath dialogue, which is really great too. So, I think that this is amazing. Like, so just, I think you gotta really spend as much time as you can getting the first minute of the song sounding just exceptional, and kind of meeting kind of the potential of what's happening later on in the song. That's my only thoughts on it. I feel that like if you spend a little bit more time setting it up perfectly, then people are going to get to the stuff that's like, my favorite part of the song with all the other stuff. But yeah, man. Yeah, there was one long held out note where I felt that, like, where was it? It was like right before the chorus, where it felt like it held out for just a hair too long. And, but if you put like something over the top of it or something like that, that might make it sound, that's the only line that I was kind of like, I'd try to do something to make that special, or I would just shorten the note a little bit. Just cause it seemed like it was holding on a little bit too long. But other than that, man, I'm a huge fan of what you do. Keep doing what you do. I think you're onto something here with this sound. It's like this dreamy, like smooth, cool sound that you're getting. If anybody wants to know like what a flavor of like modern singer-songwriter music sounds like, it sounds like this. You're doing a killer job, man. Nice work. Did you produce that yourself? I don't know if you're on the call. Are you on the call? I don't think he's on the call. But nice job, whoever did the production on this too. Ian, you're up next. Comfort within noise. Here, let's give this a listen. Oh, nice. Looking for a cover song from in the vein of Imagine Dragons. Okay, let's give it a listen.
Eyes glaring from across the room, I can feel your stare, even when I'm not looking. You've got an energy about you, I can already tell when we touch. Ooh, oh, just so you know, you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to explain. No, no, I can tell you on it. I can tell you on it.
Nice. Well, yeah, I saw your comment there. Yeah, it obviously doesn't sound like Imagine Dragons at all. Well, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, like I've said in the past, we don't like ask you for the new link or anything like that. You'll just have to drop it in next time. We'll get you next time on it, but I can give you some feedback on this one if you want it. If you don't, otherwise I can skip it. Okay, cool. Yeah, my thoughts on this one. I feel that I would try to find some ways that you can still work a little bit more on the dynamics. I feel like your dynamics are pretty close, but you could get a little bit more contrast with them if you maybe added a little more to the bigger moments and subtracted a little more from like the quieter moments. For me, a lot of times it's taking bass out, it's taking some of the rhythm stuff out. Aside from like drums, like literally just going straight to drums and vocal can be cool. Also, play around with your vocal effects on that one. I feel that the vocal sound is very, very samey all the way through, the lead vocal sound. So what I would be doing is I would be playing around with different distortions. I would maybe get a little bit of a distorted kind of vibe to a part of it. Maybe even the verses could be like filtered / lightly distorted, and then bring a double up for like your pre-chorus, then get some stacks for your chorus. You know, it's like thinking about ways that and then you want to kind of like, you know, stagger your effects as well, blending them up a little bit more. Just play around with that kind of stuff. I think that's going to help this track have a little more like expansion and contraction, help the track breathe a little bit more. And it's also the thing it's going to help too. It's going to help me when I was listening to it, I was having a hard time telling exactly where I was in the song. So it's going to help to kind of like, it's like, here it is. Like you're kind of spoon feeding the transitions to people and giving them an idea of like where they are in the song. I don't know if the bass was too busy, but you know, maybe you could simplify it in the verse or take it out completely in the verse. And maybe I think it's just like with all bass, every single part that when I'm producing a track, if I'm laying down like a real bass part, my verses, if I have bass in it at all, it's going to be a very simple kind of take on it. Then the pre-chorus, it gets a little more complex. The chorus, it's like the most complex phrasing and all that stuff. So it's just that, you know, I'm looking to do that, add dynamics at all levels wherever I can to kind of, like I was saying, have that feeling of expansion and contraction and just like you're taking them on a journey. You're taking them on a ride up and then you're taking them back down. So that's my thoughts on that one, man. Vocal tone was really cool, like a very pleasing sounding voice. I think it'll sound nice with a little bit of distortion and filtering on it too. Johanna, you're up next. Here we go. I didn't really notice the uke in it at all. So, you know, that's how you can sneak a uke in and people don't even know it's there, you know? People don't even realize that the uke's there. You've done a pretty good job. All right, let's check this out.
I was a fool for you, and you know, yeah, you know. And my pain, well, it did show, oh, it shows. And I'm playing this losing game with you. I'm playing this losing game. Give me the dice so I can roll, and I'll roll. I'll take my chance, girl. Love it, love it, love it. 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 You know I'm lost before I even get started.
All right, so let's see what you were asking for feedback wise. Scratch vocals, looking for production. Songwriting feedback. Looking for a female vocalist to nail the lead. Cool. Yeah. You can definitely hear there's a little pitchiness in the scratch, but you know, if you're hiring a outside vocalist, that's no problem at all. So my thoughts on this one, I think your samples are pretty cool that you're picking. I think the way that you're arranging them is feeling a little dated. I feel like it's got to have like some bigger, like bolder kind of hits to it, punchier kind of vibe with the production. Either that, or you could literally scale it way back and do kind of like a lo-fi on it. I think could be kind of cool. You could maybe even slow it down a little bit, do a lo-fi on it. That's my thoughts on it's just the way it's just a bit of a dated pop kind of sound that you've got here especially when it starts to get going. So my thoughts are to just like, you know, decide one way. I think you got to pick one or the other. I think you got to hit the pedal to the floor a little bit more and get some punchy kind of sounds coming up out of this and just really get an energetic, excited vocal on the I love it. I love it. I love it. Something like that, or something like just super lo-fi and very minimalist in the production, but has like a cool vibey kind of I love it vibe. And to listen to that, you just listen to the lo-fi beats playlist on Spotify. Listen to that for an hour, and you'll probably get some pretty cool ideas as to how you could take some of these same samples and kind of recontextualize them. So yeah, that's what I think on this. I love it. It's a good, could be a great ad relevant theme. You got to do it in a way that's like super unique though, because it's, but it's a good theme, I feel. Guidance on the growing of gang vocals on one course to the next, more ear candy or instrumentation needed, ? Cheryl, Ari, Sherry, and Natalie. Here we go. Let's check it out. Unfinished production. Sweet. Here we go.
Feel the grass between my toes. See the moon and how it glows. Feel the love from all my friends. Going on and on, it never ends. The little things in life, oh how they matter. We got it all. We got it all. Oh, 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 oh. We got it all. Smell the flowers in the breeze. Hear the wind through bending trees. Taste the dew of summer dawn like before. Happy as a lion lead. And it all. We got it all.
I think the melodies on this are really sick. My thoughts are that the production on it feels I think you're gonna have you're gonna have an uphill hill climb with this direction on the production, simply because it feels a little with the acoustic kind of thing. It's a pretty simple arrangement, and it feels like again like it was about like 10 years ago, like something like this with like an acoustic kind of vibe, warm kind of vibe, would have probably worked a little better. Like I feel right now, like especially with the lyric "We got it all," that sounds like to me like a promo or sizzle kind of line. We got it all. We got it all. Got it all. Maybe you could. I'm not sure if that's the. It feels like to me that the vibe of the vocal is more like we got all the love we need. We got all. It's more like that, but I'm just not sure what maybe it's like a family thing. It could be like a family home kind of song. Which in that case, I think you still have to find some kind of modern thread with this on the production side of things. I think your melodies are beautiful. I feel like some of the parts are a little sustainy. You could find ways to kind of like shorten up the lines in places. Again, to just like have things kind of breathe a little more. Yeah, if it's a We Are the World kind of thing. Yeah, I just don't really see a lot of that kind of music being placed in stuff. To be honest, like a We Are the World type song is something that's something that's kind of composed and put together. This like I think that you could take this in some different directions, and I think you kind of need to production wise in order for this to have a better chance of landing when you're finished with it. I do like some of the melody ideas a lot in this, and I didn't have a chance to closely examine all the lyrics as I was listening to it. It's hard to do on like one listen, but because your title could imply like a bunch of different things, I think you gotta figure out where you're going with it, and I think your production direction should primarily be driven by like what you're trying to get across with the song. But you could always, like I was saying earlier, like We Got It All sounds like a good promo or sizzle kind of line. So yeah. I mean, not needing anything but love and the simple things in life feels like almost like a home kind of concept to me. It's like that's a good home song without actually using the word home. So I would, find ways that you get like organic, like modern, organic, cool songs. I feel like you gotta find a way to produce this that's not quite so. It feels like it's kind of like. It just feels like it's a dated style of like acoustic rock kind of production. So you got to find something you could emulate in terms of like artists. You got to do some research on that and find a cool direction that you like. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Good idea. I think it needs work on the production side of it to modernize up the sound. And I would just go for like listen to stuff that's like home themed recently, over the last year, and I think you'll kind of be in the right direction. All right, so we already listened to this song, I think. Yeah, we already gave this one a listen. This was in here twice. Delete that one out. Elise, you're up next. Let's check this out. Unfinished production, feedback on production. Do you think the chorus? Oh, sweet. Nice. Do you think the chorus is syncable? Post about my dad was the inspiration for the word troubadour. Aw, that's sweet. Appreciate that. I was actually reading a bunch of my dad's old writings last night. He used to write a bunch of stuff, like just with a typewriter. Let's check this out. Let's give this a listen. Here we go.
rose. You can find the music you want. Chinese noodles hit the spot. You can always find your friends down here at the bar. Transplants from everywhere, sharing songs and a drink or two. So let's drink to that. It's a Hollywood hotspot on the street of dreams, where it all begins, where we all believe. We are the troubadours, the dark stars, the reveries. We are the answer for the underdogs, memories of 24. Memories of 24. It's like a tiny church inside. Never know who you'll find. Touring cats from your favorite tracks. We are the troubadours, the dark stars, the reveries. We are the answer for the underdogs, the memories. We are the troubadours, the dark stars, the reveries. We are the answer for the underdogs, memories of 24.
Like that hook. Simple, effective. I feel like your arrangement has like clear sections to it, so that's good. It's like I know where I am in the song when I'm listening to it, which is a good thing. I feel like the super specific lyrics are obviously going to be making an uphill climb for you with Sync. It's going to be tough. Wait, did I see super happy Canada Day, eh? On your hat? Is that what I see? Happy Canada Day. Oh, by the way, happy Canada Day to anybody who's Canadian. I love Canadians. It's hilarious. Oh man, if I got one of those hats, I think it would just be super distracting for everybody. Talking about getting back to your song though, Elise. So I feel like the production needs a modernizing of sort, like the track itself, like the instrumental. It's got like an 80s, almost like kind of Don Henley kind of vibe to it in parts to me. And it feels like it's borrowing like some kind of Killers kind of thing in the choruses, which I like that part. I feel like that's a little bit more modern, but I feel like overall it just kind of needs an overhaul of like the production direction on it. To give it a better chance. Like, I think if this had like a super cool production on it and you weren't super enunciated with everything you were singing about, I don't think it matters if you're singing about noodles or like this. It's like, sometimes the vibe is more important than the actual lyric content. So, okay, you did all this production. Well, cool. You know, I don't know if you're new to producing or if this is like something further on down the line for you, but, nice. As far as like putting together a demo, it's like if you could, this is one of the things once you get started with producing, even if you decide you never want to produce a song really from beginning to end, but you just want to get better at getting your ideas down to work with a producer, it can be an awesome thing because who knows, maybe there's something like, maybe there's a producer that's like, oh, I kind of like what you did there. I like that synth sound is pretty dope. So they just like literally drop that into the session and build a new track around it. Yeah, no, this production isn't bad. I feel like this production is just to mirror what you're saying, Quentin. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the direction of it feels very 80s inspired and perhaps not modern and kind of with it, some of the production choices in terms of the samples that are picked are kind of contributing to that. Where I think like, if you worked with a producer, you might be able to find something that sounds a little more modern, a little more some of the sound selections. And just also where things are kind of sitting and getting your vocal performance, coaching a vocal performance that like really fits like that more modern styling of the track. So that's my thoughts on this. I think, you know, it's not a bad thing sometimes to be specific. You know, if you want to release this as an artist track, make a cool artist track and pitch that around. You know, sometimes, like I said before, it's like the vibe is more important sometimes than the actual lyric content. Like Drew's song, Drew Henme's song. Like I couldn't really tell too much what he was singing in some of it. And I didn't really need to pay too much attention because it just felt like it was in a vibe. So that's my thoughts. Hey, there you go. You know, yeah, there's ways you can modernize this. There's other Taylor Swift, sure. You could find some different ways to do this. But I would say even like Taylor Swift's kind of like super in focus pop is something that is kind of getting skewed away from now. You know, people are looking for more and more stuff that's a little quirky, a little off in a cool way, you know? You always, when you're producing stuff, you try to think of like, how do I take what's working now and kind of put my own spin on it, give it something new. Let's see. Far and Distant Heart. Let's check this out. This is, oh wow, time flies. Got like 7 minutes left. Let's see if we can get a couple more in. Rob and Martina, unreleased, unmastered, getting close to the finish line. Let's check it out. Super hooky. Getting that part super right.
Must be the science of love that rings through the night, keeping me up. I tell you in a dream, but you disappear. This feeling's out of reach and blinded by fear. It's a far and distant heart. Must be the lights that burn through my soul. You live in my mind, but you're too far to hold. Tell me where this ends, my dream won't go. I'm hanging by a thread and want you to know you're a far and distant heart. Ooh, there's a part of me that's a part of you. Ooh, there's a part of me that's a part of you. Whenever I try, this voice won't die, keeps coming back to you. Whenever I say this go, picture in your face every time I close my eyes to travel.
This is really cool. I really like this a lot. And again, I'm going to give you some like kind of fine tuning notes as far as what I'm feeling on this. I just think that your voices work really well together. It's really nice. It's perhaps a hair on the dry side in places to me. Just the overall vocal tone feels a hair dry, and I wonder if you added just a hair more of like a long reverb, and maybe add like it's like another reverb on top of whatever you're using, just a hair of like a longer reverb, and then add just like a little bit more in the air band on the lead vocal, especially in the first part of the song. I feel like the vocals are not quite popping up the way they need to. And I know that these vocals could be like super, in parts, they're kind of blowing my mind. But in the beginning of the song, before it gets started, I think this is where like you're doing so much right. Air band. When I'm talking about like air bands, they're bands that are like up around like 6 and up. It's like adding air to the vocal. There's actually a plugin called Mag. It's like a Mag EQ, MAAG, that has like an air. It's called, I can't remember the exact frequency range that boosts, but that's kind of the boost that I'm looking for on that lead vocal a little bit. Just giving it a little bit more air. I think it needs it. A little bit more presence in the beginning. Yeah, it's similar to an exciter, but it's not a distortion thing. It's a EQ thing. I think probably on both, but I'd have to hear it, you know? I think that also the end of your first chorus kind of feels a little awkward to me. Just the way that it kind of, there's something weird with the guitar. It's almost like it felt like the guitar should have just like strummed out a chord and let you sing over it to close out the chorus, but it just kind of kept doing its thing. I would have like that first, I think again, that first minute of the song is so important. Like really spend more time on like that first minute of it, making every measure of that first minute of the song special. I think if you spend a little bit more time on that, you're going to have people that are just like instantly hooked on this song, and they're going to get to all of the beautiful parts that you have after that. A couple little touches you could consider adding, because I feel like your acoustic guitar gets kind of, it's a little samey later on. You could double the acoustic in places. You could also add Nashville guitar to it, which is like a high-strung acoustic guitar in places. Could be really nice to kind of give it a little bit. I feel like what I was missing like towards the end was, because everything kind of opened up in a really beautiful way, but it was kind of missing some of the high-end kind of shimmery, like brighter sounds. And I felt like you could put like a Nashville on this and kind of tuck it back, even like double your lead acoustic guitar, double your Nashvilles, and just kind of tuck them back behind it. It'll just kind of brighten everything up a little bit. And then perhaps even like a Big Sky electric guitar, just ringing out a couple of high notes here and there, to just kind of give it, it's almost like a pad, acting as like a pad. But for a song like this, I think like, again, going back to like, if you're a singer-songwriter and you're looking to make a cool arrangement of your song that's super licensable, like this is exactly the way you want to go about doing it. Like this song is really well orchestrated, and I feel like you're incorporating a lot of like what is working in modern acoustic music, modern singer-songwriter stuff. So just keep working on it. You know, I think there's a couple little touches at the end that you could still add to kind of brighten up the overall feel of it, and then just spend a little, give that first minute a bit more TLC, I think, because I think it'd be worth it. But really nice job, and I'm looking forward to hearing that when that's completed. You're on to something there. Shoot. Well, we kind of ran up against time. Let's do one more. Here we go. Friedel. Tyler Friedel even gave me like a pronunciation guide in the student name field. Thank you for that. Shy. Who else was it? Devin and Satine, it was like, it rhymes with PETA. I can't remember. It's from the previous guy. Sarita, Shy, and Devin, and Tyler Friedel. Pronounced free-dull. Okay, let's give this a listen. Unreleased, final mix of the Hockey Night in Canada theme. Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that was the thing. That's like the equivalent of like the football night in America or something like that. Let's check this out. Yeah, it's got like a bleepy bloopy 8-bit kind of style to the whole thing. I think if you like did that even more, made it like a little more punchy and a little less sustained, made it more like beep doop beep doop beep doop beep doop doop, like made it a little more like that. Could I see like some hockey podcast wanting to use that as their intro? Sure, you know. But I don't know what the legal ramifications of all that is. I feel that the lead on this is in particular for my ears was definitely hitting me a little harsh. It was just kind of like it was kind of for me it was like the equivalent for me of like almost like a dog whistle. It was one of those things where I heard stuff in it that was like kind of grating on me after a while. So just that particular synth patch, whatever you were using, it was just too much for me. So I think you got to find patches. Exactly, it's piercing. Yeah, it was like it definitely makes an impact. But I think if you're going to use that synth at all, you got to use it in very sparse doses. Just because it has a little bit too much of when it's going on all the time. It almost has kind of like an alarm kind of like vibe to it. Bleepy bloopy is when JC and Chris have their potty mouths on. Okay. Yeah, we do curse quite a bit. Sometimes happens. Yeah. You know, there's definitely like a PG version of me that you find when you're in the studio. You know, it's just like but I try to keep this as kid friendly as possible, just because like I know that some people have their children in the room and all that stuff, and I try to do the best I can to keep it free from profanity. So, anyways, Tyler, yeah, so that was interesting. You know, I would try to like. I'm trying to think of like there's a couple of podcasts that actually this is gonna because it's kind of like it's not even like a real game podcast, but there's a spoof on like a game podcast called the Nerd Crew where they have like an intro song that this kind of I think if you took the production of that song, let me see if I can find it. Maybe I can find it for you. It's kind of funny. I mean, the show is really funny. They just make fun of people who are like super, like Marvel and all that stuff. Like just like saying like all their movies are great and super fan people of like Disney stuff and things like that. Let's see, Nerd Crew. I was thinking it's Red Letter Media is the guys that do this. Let's see. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it. I got to find one that has like the theme song on it. Oh yeah, this is it. This is totally what I'm talking about. I think if you did like a version of that was a little more like this, it might be, you know, you could use this as inspiration, but there's probably other things you could do too. But this is what I'm talking about. I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of that for a little bit. I just thought that was like a really cool sound that had some similarities to what you're doing. If you're trying to, I think that would be like a cool way. Like if you did an 8-bit version of it, that would be something that would be really unique and interesting that they're like, ooh, you know, that's really cool. And a Canadian put that together. Awesome. Like, yeah, you know, there could be some potential there. I don't know how protected they are of their song. It'd probably be hard to license it out somewhere else, especially if it's like the second national anthem of Canada. If they own it, then you might be able to pitch this version to them, I suppose. But I don't really know how they work. But either way, it could be a cool thing for you to experiment with. I think just keep diving into your vibes with your synthy kind of stuff. I think 8-bit's a cool direction to go for sure. But you gotta kind of play by the rules a little bit of what those songs do. Yeah. And there's 8-bit playlists out there all over the place of 8-bit kind of music that you can get inspired by. I actually like a lot of that old video game music. There's a band called the Mini Bosses where they do like covers of like old video game songs. and it's pretty dope. Listening to like all the old like Castlevania themes to like electric. Super fun. I actually went to one of those concerts once, and it was one of the most bizarre experiences, but it was really fun because like there's no lyrics to the songs, but everybody knows the melodies. So everybody's like, you go up to, I was like right up in the front, and the guitar player was like 3 feet away from me. We were going like, da 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 da. We were all just like kind of singing it out while they were playing the licks on the guitar. It was super fun. It's really fun. Anyways, I digress. It's time. I gotta sadly call this a day. But it's been fun. Thank you so much for sharing all your music. Really appreciate you all your contributions to the musical world. All these songs that are getting created, eventually they're gonna get out there and they're gonna hopefully touch somebody in like a really good way. So that's like the whole point, right? So hopefully I've helped out in some small way to help you get your songs a little closer to where you would like them to be, and make them a little bit more marketable. So that's all I got for you today. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you. When will I see you next? Let's see. What does the calendar say? Let's check this out. The calendar says I will see you tomorrow at the Feb cohort. I'll see you tomorrow for our little pitch workshop that we're doing. So really, really looking forward to that. Otherwise, have a fantastic 4th of July weekend. Everybody who's celebrating Canada Day, have an awesome day, eh? And make sure you get your pasta and your nachos and all that stuff. Get all that stuff good to go. And yeah, don't forget your poutine. All right, catch you later.